Greetings, welcome, and good day. You are now tuned into the 21st episode of the Seasoned Vet Podcast. I'm so happy you could make it to another chapter of this show. This week we're joined by retired Army Captain Crystal Hamiln-Tramack. Captain Tramack enlisted in the Army in 2001 as a former track star and graduate of St. Augustine University. After 15 years of working in different variations of the Army's medical field, she retired in 2016. By surprise. Since her retirement, she's managed to stay busy. Very busy. When she's not on volunteer orders for the Army because of a global pandemic, she's busy coaching applicants on how to get a better job with the federal government, coaching veterans on how to take advantage of their VA benefits, finishing up her PhD, and being an Amazon best-selling author. Captain Tramack is an airborne-qualified former executive officer and a proud member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So far, she has published 2 books. One is available for pre-order, and the other is available right now on Amazon, and the link for it will be in the description of this episode. I want you to be able to find her easily so you can follow and inbox her as needed. The title of this interview is her name on all platforms of social media. That's why I'm naming this episode, Crystal She Speaks. Friend! Hey friend, how's it going now?
It is going great. How are you?
Very well, very well. I know we're dealing with a bit of a time difference, so I would say good afternoon, but is it even any sunshine out where you at right now?
No, there is no sunshine. There was none today, actually.
I'm so sorry. Girl, it was hot here.
Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
Fred, if you don't mind my asking, what is your name and what is your connection to the service?
My name is Crystal Tramack, and my connection to the service is that I am a U.S. Army retired disabled veteran and former medical service corps officer.
Yo, that's a title? Did you say medical service corps officer?
Yes.
Should I be calling you Dr. Tramack? Is that what you really wanted me to do?
Ooh, so you telling my business.
Oh, snap!
I will have that title. I'm not there yet, but next time this year.
Okay. All right, hold on, Doctor, what's it called? Pre-PhD.
Yes.
Dr. Tramack, pre-PhD. Look.
Yes, Dr. Tramack loading, yes.
I love it. Come on. So, I almost said Dr. Tramack. Okay, so what was your rank when you retired from the Army?
So when I retired from the Army, I was a captain. So I was an 03E because I was prior military. I was a prior medic. So I served for 4.5 years as a medic before I recruited myself to commission.
Self-recruiting. I love it. Like, if you don't work for you, who will?
Exactly.
All right. So Captain Tramack, can you tell me if you're the first woman in your family to join the armed services?
So, I'm so used to asking the question about military service in your family, and so I normally can answer that question, but now that you're asking me like that, in my immediate family, yeah, it is just me. No, okay, so wait, I almost said that. I have a first cousin, so I'm the second to oldest on my mother's side, and my first cousin did join a little bit before I did. She went into the reserves, but I shortly went in after her. I went active duty, and then she went active duty. So, yes, I did have someone else in my family that was a female who was in the Army.
Yo, okay. Yo, y'all doing it. Y'all love the Army. Wait, so is there any other branch or are there any other branches in your family that you know of? Like, Coast Guard, Air Force, Marine Corps? Or y'all just an Army family?
No, I do have cousins that have, I do actually have some cousins I have a cousin that was in the Marines, a female cousin. I do have several other family members that were in the Army. Some were in the Marines. I think that's pretty much all of our branches that I could think. I'm sure we have some people that served in other branches, but most of the time when it comes out is Army or Marines.
Gee whiz. Captain Tramack, listen, you just said that you had a lady Marine in the family, so I'm sorry to have to say this, but you're not even the toughest lady in your family.
And she's a little cousin at that.
She said, let me one up all of y'all.
She did.
All right, well, best of luck to that little sister. I do hope she does well in her Marine Corps career.
Thank you.
For sure. Captain Tramack, can you tell me, was the Army your first branch of service, your first choice and branch of service?
So that was a nice segue because I will tell you that it was not. So I really didn't think about joining the military at all. I was offered to join JRTC or ROTC when I was in college, but I was there on a full track and field scholarship.
Come on, runner.
And yes, and I kindly declined because I was like, no, I don't want to join anybody's military. But then when I graduated, I liked not having any college debt. I came home and I was so used to spending time running track and competing that I didn't have much to do with my time besides going to work and coming home. So then I was bored and I decided I would join the military.
What?
That was the fastest way, really? That
Girl.
was the fastest way out of my parents' house, the fastest way to put money in my pocket, put a roof over my head, and also to pay for additional schooling if that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to join the Marines, and I'm from Northern Virginia, so I live right outside of Quantico, not maybe like 20 miles from Quantico. And what threw me off about the Marines was they were telling me that it would be 6 months to a year before I could go to the officer school. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me. They're down the road. I could just drive down there. Like, why am I waiting 6 months to a year to go to training? So that's why they didn't work out for me.
Captain Tramack, listen, you told me you joined the military because you was bored. This is this is the best recruitment story ever. I had nothing else to do. I guess I'll just join the military.
Really, I joined out of boredom. And then another thing is, I make the joke that my parents are enablers. I'm an only child, so if I would have never wanted to leave my parents' house, pay a bill or anything, they would have let me stay forever. So I was like, I have to go, and this is the fastest way for me to get out of here. My mother didn't even get out of bed the day I left for basic training.
Did you tell her that's where you were going?
Oh, she knew, and she was just like, okay, see you later. It's like, she just could not understand that.
Did she believe you?
She knew. She was just like, maybe she thought I was going to change my mind if she didn't get out of bed. I have no idea. And my dad thought it was the funniest thing ever because he's like, I just can't wait until you're up to your elbows in mud and dirt. And I'm like, why would you say that?
All right, but that was a fact. You probably were at one point. Yeah. Dad called it.
He did.
So you're an only child. You had a lot of options. If you don't mind my asking, what was your major in college?
So my major was human performance and wellness. So under the exercise science umbrella, I wanted to become a physical therapist because I loved everything about track and field, and I wanted to continue to work with athletes. Well, initially I thought about becoming a sports medicine, going into sports medicine. And then as I started to do a little more digging, I realized that they were like surgeons, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Sports medicine sounded like I got to work with athletes who had athletic injuries, but that wasn't the case. So then I said I would do physical therapy. So that's how I ended up going that route.
Right on. Yo, this worked out very well for you. And if you also don't mind my asking, what was your track and field event?
So my favorite event was the 100-meter dash.
Oh, you're a sprinter.
Yes, I ran everything from the 55-meter dash up to the 400-meter dash. I did not care for much over the 200-meter dash, but I also ran a season of cross-country when I was in college because, as I mentioned, I was a full scholarship athlete. And so my coach said, you are running cross-country. And I'm like, wow, why would you do this to me?
To keep you in shape during the off-season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The humility was real.
All right, so as a sprinter, your favorite sprinter out right now, it's an Olympic year. It's 2024. I know you're going to be tuned in. Who are you rooting for? Listen,
there's just so many things going on. I have to root for my home team.
Look, you're a runner. I expect you to keep up with some runners.
Because they're going in and out so much or what have you. But, I'm drawing a blank right now because I was not. So who I'm going for is my home team. So we have a sprinter from Alexandria, Virginia,
okay,
who's out there killing it. And so, he's running the 100 and 200. You all know him, but he's tearing it up out there. And so I vote for him because he's all into like your comics and all that with all the Dragon Ball Z and all the rest of that stuff. And so I definitely can see him in front of my face. But as we mentioned, it's evening here already.
As a track and field enthusiast, I watch the Olympics. I used to be a runner back in the day too. So the runner I'm going for, and I just love her because she is very close. Because she is close to my age, and she's still out there killing it.
Oh,
Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, yes.
Okay.
Yo, they call her Mommy Rocket, and for good reason.
They do. They do.
I ain't never. I've never seen a race where she came in something lower than third.
She's doing very well out there. I'm not competing on that level, but I am still a masters track and field athlete. So I am an All-American USA track and field master sprinter and jumper.
Get it. I love it. And thank you for letting me go on this side note departure with you.
Oh, no problem at all.
All right, so Captain Tramack, how do you feel about your time in uniform? Does any particular time period stand out to you?
So I will say there are a lot of times that stand out, but one I will say is, like I mentioned, I recruited myself. So when I came into the Army, I was in the Army less than 2 years when I became a recruiter. And while I was out there, someone, and I'm going to say someone said that I was doing a good job, because when I was told that this person recommended me, it went in one ear and out the other, because I have no idea who that is to this day. So they mentioned some gentleman saw me and thought that I was doing really well out there recruiting, and then they asked if I wanted to be a medical recruiter. Well, medical recruiting is considered like the unicorn, like the best kept secret of Army recruiting. And so I was like, sure. And I went over to that side and realized that I have everything I need to be able to commission. So I gathered my own documents, got my packet together, and then gave it to my fellow recruiter whose mission that was. And I said, you'll get your credit as being the recruiter. I'll get my credit as, receiving the commission, and our station will get credit. So it's a win for us all. So I recruited myself to commission.
Yo, I love this. You really did pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
I did. So while I was in recruiting, I also made 5 and 6 in that 4.5 years.
Wait, 5 and 6? You made E5 and E6?
Yes.
Lord have mercy. You made a lot of rank before going officer.
I did. So they were calling me. They said I was fast tracking, of course. And so they said, why don't you stay out for recruiting? And I said, if I stay out here in recruiting and I do a full 20-year retirement, that means that I would be in recruiting for over 18 years. I need to try something else first.
I know that's right. You are on your own path. I love it.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you think your experience could have been improved? Or could it have been?
Okay. So I will say that being able to have mentors that sought me out, as well as knowing the need for mentors, would have been good for me while I was in service. I did have some individuals that did help me along the way. However, I did have some challenges, so it would have been nice to know sooner. So as we went back to that, a memorable time, one of those memorable times for me that wasn't so good was that the Army was downsizing because all the services had to return to their non-deployment, non-conflict population. And unfortunately, I was one of the ones that was wrapped up in that number. The crazy part about it is I went before 3 different boards in the same year. So the first board was to say that I was selected for long-term health education and training. So that meant that I would go to school fully funded for 2 years to get a second master's degree in a civilian setting. So I had been accepted to North Carolina A&T for a healthcare administration degree. I would have been receiving all my compensation, being in a civilian status, and then getting my lookout for promotion to major. Well, when the downsizing message came out, then they went behind that board and had a board on who they were going to separate. Now, as we know, most of us are taught in the military that as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're progressing along, you're not going to have any problems if you wanted to do a regular retirement, which, we know the retirement system has since changed. But if you wanted to do that 20-year retirement at the time, as long as you were doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to be able to progress if that's what you wanted to do. Well, I did all of those things, and I didn't have any UCMJ action, so I wasn't in trouble or anything like that. Remind you, I told you I just got picked up for this long-term health education and training program, which is for some people doing some pretty good things that they're selecting apart from the rest of their peers. So they send me before this board with the same exact packet, and I get selected for separation.
What?
Yes. So I get selected for separation, and then now they're going to tell me this is my first look at promotion consideration to major, and I'm going to go before the promotion board, but I'm not going to have any bias, although they're going to put a slip of paper inside of my record to tell them that I've been selected for retirement. So how they dressed it up is that board that separated me was 4.5 years before my full retirement date. So what they put in there, because if you have 15 years, you can opt to either take a retirement check, or early retirement check, or go into the reserves and National Guard. Otherwise, you will walk away with nothing. So I took the early retirement because it made the most sense. So they put in my packet that I voluntarily said that I was retiring, and then sent me before for the promotion board to get my first look at major. Yes. So needless to say, surprise, surprise, I was not selected.
I'm mad as hell.
Yeah.
I know you were too.
Yes, and then while we were on COVID, during the height of COVID, we had extra time, and I started digging into some things. And I found that there were two males that did not look like me. One, they're males, but they also have less melanin than I do.
These are white guys?
Of course they are.
You don't have to say it, I will.
Well,
so two white guys.
Yeah, two white guys. They continue to serve in the military. They both had UCMJ action. They were senior to me, and I know this because I used to be a recruiter with them both. So when one of them was my previous supervisor, I came out as an E4. He was an E6 who had been busted in rank and got re-promoted. And then the other one was a corporal recruiter that made 5 and 6 out there, had also gotten in trouble and got, and they both commissioned after I commissioned, but they were both able to stay in. And one of them even returned to recruiting duty after having recruiting improprieties.
Wow.
And so they were both able to stay in, make major, and go beyond that retirement. So imagine my surprise when I saw that on the other side, because of course they did not tell us who was separated and who was not. And so the only response that I got back when I gave them that information was, oh, we told you we were going to separate quality officers. But so we're not going to address the fact that we allowed 2 white males to stay in when there was a heavy population of prior service females that were separated without UCMJ action.
Wow.
So yes. That would have been very helpful to me to have someone advocating for me. That would have been very helpful to me for me to have some mentorship along the way, because we were taught that you were to be a heptathlete or pentathlete of our field, and so you tried different things. So I on the medical service corps side, I did hospital administration, I did medical logistics, I did patient administration, I did human resources, when some people might have stayed plans in operation the whole time, but that wasn't the way that it was introduced to us when we were brought on that journey, because they were trying something different out. So yeah, that definitely would have been helpful to me, and I do think that would have made a big difference in my being able to continue to serve and also getting promoted.
It's not, how do I say this? It's good to know that the Coast Guard is the only branch that will let good people go and promote garbage.
Yes.
It looks like the Army is setting the tone for that one.
Yes. We will call it, we say, mess up, move up.
They really did fall forward.
Yes.
While letting a quality officer, a unicorn medical recruiting officer, while letting, and received no adverse action along the way. You were a stellar performer, and you were moving up in rank very quickly. Like, not only when you were an officer, but also during your enlisted time, you moved up in the ranks very, very quickly during your time as an enlisted person, and then moved over to the officer world and did the same thing on that scale. Christ.
Yes. And even jumped out of perfectly good aircraft in flight.
You were doing that?
Yeah, so I'm also airborne-qualified and combatives level 1 qualified.
Get the fuck... Crystal.
Yes.
I'm a little bit scared. Hey, remember that time I said that your Marine cousin was the tough one in the family? I'm going to go ahead and retract that statement, Crystal. I ain't mean it. I'm sorry. What I meant to say was, you get it, girl. And I will never challenge you to a fight ever. Because I feel like I've already lost the argument. I have you just like you have me. Right. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that almost answers this next question, unless you have another example.
Okay.
And the next question is, tell me about a time when you experienced something either good or bad that you know to be unique to you because you are a Black woman.
No, you know that as a Black woman, we have plenty of these.
We have plenty of experience, yes.
We have plenty of these, unfortunately. and unfortunately. So how I got into recruiting is because my first assignment was Fort Drum, New York. Now, that is 20 miles outside of the Canadian border.
Okay.
I bought my first brand new car. I bought a brand new Honda Civic and drove up to New York. And when I got there, the temperature changed pretty quickly. It happened right before September 11th.
Oh, wow.
And then I thought something was wrong with my car because there was a sheet of ice on the inside of my window. And they were like, nope, there's nothing wrong with your car. That's just what it is up here. And I'm like, yep, this is not for me.
Wait, ice? So, wait, there was a sheet of ice on the inside of your windshield?
Yes. So all the windows on the inside of the car had sheets of ice on them. And you remember that was the time we had CDs. I know I'm dating myself, big deal. But we had CDs. And so the CDs had like a layer of frost on them. And I was like, I need to take my car back because something's wrong with it.
Girl, did you drive to Antarctica? Shit.
Yeah, they were like, no, there's nothing wrong with your car. That's just the way it is. And I'm like, well, I should get a remote starter. They're like, you would not have any gas. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, this is not fun. So I went on a funeral detail for a great deal of my time while I was there, simply because I say what I think. And so I remember my leadership coming in saying, your room is very nice and clean, but we have a question. When do you plan to unpack? And I said, I don't plan on being here very long, sir. And they kind of looked at me and they were like, okay. So they said, come see me Monday morning. The commander's like, you're going to start funeral detail. Okay, no problem.
Start what detail?
Funeral detail.
Oh, Lord.
So
okay.
Yeah, so so we actually did the 21 gun salute. We actually did the funeral services. I folded the flag. I presented the flag. Did all of that. So that was a unique and great opportunity because we actually got to do one for a Tuskegee Airman.
Oh, wow.
That lived in Buffalo. So that was really cool because his daughter was like, oh my gosh, they sent a black female here. And I was thinking to myself, I'm so happy you think that's the way that worked and that makes you happy, but that is not what they were thinking. So it just worked out. Yeah.
This is somebody trying to punish me a little bit. This wasn't a hookup for you, but yes, it is now.
Yes. So that made her happy, but it was really a unique opportunity. She had his uniform up there and all that stuff, so that was good to be able to do that. But when I had a leader that came in while I was on funeral detail, and he had a complaint about me being on funeral detail. And so he's like, no, she's coming back right now. And it was like right before they were going to the field. And so I was like, yep, this is not going to work for me. So I did what I needed to do. And then I'm like, recruiting, I'll try that. So I applied for recruiting, and my unit sat on the packet. I gave it to my leader, my squad leader, and she went to go pass it forward, and they just sat on it. And so I went and I said, now mind you, I'm brand new. I haven't been in a year, and I'm an E4, so I go and I say, I turn my packet in, and I would like to know the status. Okay, it hasn't moved, so I would like to take it back, and I'll hand walk it myself to the next level. So they let me do it. I walked across the street to 2 levels up. Nobody with me, and I go into the office, and I'm like, okay, I'd like to see the commander, full-bird colonel, 06, and so the sergeant major says, the E9, he says, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I have a recruiting packet, and I need the commander's signature, and he was like, okay, so he said, let me look at it. So he looked at it, and he said, okay, yeah, everything is good to go. So he told the administrative secretary to put me on the commander's calendar. He put me on the commander's calendar, and I got it processed. But the thing about it was, there was not very many people in senior leadership. They actually weren't there were no people in senior leadership positions that looked like me, male or female, when I was there. So we had a Puerto Rican sergeant major come in that was in the middle of those 2 layers, like towards the end of my time there, but that was it. Most of the people that were Black or Hispanic were Latino, they were in like E5, E6 and below positions. And so everyone else that was a first sergeant, a company commander, any of that, they were all white males, majority of them. So
were you maybe the highest ranking Black woman there?
No, I was an E4 at the time, and there were other E4s because, they just wouldn't go but so far. So I had a squad leader that was an E6, but the unfortunate part was they got wrapped up in the same thing with everybody else, so they would only recommend the white soldiers for promotions and for schools and things like that. And so So I was like, well, I have to speak up for myself. So when my orders came down, they couldn't believe it because they didn't think that was going to happen because they didn't help me. And then they were like, how did you get orders? I'm like, yep, I'm out processing. And so, that's, it was time for me to get out there. But had I not been the person that I am to stand up for myself, it could have went very different.
I love that you knew to stand up for yourself. I love that you knew to advocate for yourself. This package was sitting on somebody's desk for how long? A couple of weeks?
Yeah, it was a few weeks. I knew I gave them the time that they were supposed to have for it to move. So I know that we were beyond that point. I don't remember how long it should have been, but I know it should have taken that long.
Okay. What took them a couple of weeks to do took you maybe a couple of hours? Because it sounds like they could have just taken it to another room across the street or whatever, to somebody's office. All right. Yeah, they really didn't want you to get promoted. Maybe they saw they saw the potential. They knew that you had it in you, and they were like, anything we can do to stop her, let's just throttle her.
Yes, my mother actually called. I told you I'm only child. My mother actually called and spoke to the commander about sending me out.
Girl, your mama called?
My mother called.
Y'all in for it now. Tramack's mom's on the phone.
and spoke to the commander about why I was going back to another rotation in JRTC at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and knowing that I had been selected to go to be a recruiter. And he was like, well, I have more than just your one soldier to worry about, and she's going. My mother said, and I have the one to worry about, and she's not going.
I know that's right.
She said, you don't know the God that I serve, so she's not going.
I love your mama. She's not afraid of anybody, it sounds like. And I like that.
All.
And I love that for her and for you.
Yeah, me too.
Captain Tramack, I forgot to ask you this, so we can get a little timeline going. What year did you join the Army, and what year did you leave?
I joined in 2001, so I graduated in July of 2000, and I was in the Army by March of 2001. And I departed the Army December 1st, 2016.
Okay. All right.
And then I went back on orders for a year during COVID as a retiree call.
I was wondering how you was able to work during COVID.
Yes, I went back for 1 year during COVID as a voluntary recall.
All right. That was very kind of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right on. I almost think I know the answer to this next question, but here we go. When you brought complaints to your chain of command, do you feel that you were heard?
You know, funny enough, I do not, and I can tell you that it's continuing even as a civilian.
Wow.
The challenges that you bring up, people will try to discount what you're saying as if you're overreacting, and I'm like, we are very clear on what's happening. When we work our best to communicate with everyone and talk to them about the challenges that we're having. So if I'm coming to you and I'm addressing something with you and I'm telling you what the problem is, but you dismiss it either by just not acknowledging it at all, or you have a rebuttal to it, to every single thing that I say, that shows me that there's a challenge that you have in yourself that you're projecting onto me. So you're intimidated and you're pushing it onto me.
Gaslighting.
Gaslighting. Big time, yes.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a never-ending thing, especially with Black women in and out of the service.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But somebody fought for us, and so I'm going to continue to stand up and fight for them. So, it's for us and whoever's coming behind us.
I know that's right. That's exactly what it's for. All right. At the beginning of your career, when you needed guidance and mentorship, were those resources provided, or did you have to seek them out? Now, I think you've actually already answered this one. You said you needed mentorship that you didn't get earlier.
I did, but I also had a recruiter. So when I came back to the recruiting area, there were a lot of leaders that looked like me.
Okay.
Males, females, and I was like, wow. So I came back to the Maryland area, and I was really surprised to leave New York and come back to that. And so I had a great first sergeant, and he was very much like, he actually reminded me of my college coach, where my college coach was like, you have track, you have school, you have a controlled social life. That was like my first sergeant, even as me being a recruiter, because he's like, this is my corporal recruiter, so, y'all don't mess with her. But he made sure, he would talk about, those that were like fast tracking, and he would just call us by our last names. He's like, the Tramacks, the Hamlins, because my maiden name is Hamlin. That's how he would say, like, if you're doing well, he's like, yeah, you guys need to get out here and be like the Hamlins, the Tramacks, or whatever. So he was really good about talking to me about doing things. And, so I believe that he was helpful to me. The recruiting station commander is the one that mentioned, like, airborne to me, like, before I even joined. And so initially I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And then after a while I was like, yeah, I know better now. And then we got an opportunity to go to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and they wouldn't send me without going. So then I went over 30 years old to airborne school.
Nice.
Leaving Germany in Fort Gordon, Georgia in 90-degree weather. Fort Benning, Georgia in 90 to 100-degree weather when it was like 70 in Germany, which was really hot at that point.
Yeah.
So, getting acclimated to that. But, I do believe that having them make comments or telling me things and sharing things with me, was helpful to me. And even when people tried to set me up with stuff, my first sergeant definitely would step in for me. So, yes, I did have some people like that. When I commissioned, I had a '06 colonel that I actually replaced in recruiting. We didn't know each other, but I ended up with his car, and then I ended up in Germany where he was. So when I got to Germany, they wanted to send me, I was a staff sergeant, they wanted to send me to Fort Riley, Kansas, and we hadn't even been there 6 months. And he's like, that makes no sense. I have a space for her. She's already been in leadership. Send whoever that was there and let her stay here. And so then I became the XO of the clinic in Germany.
Come on. Yo.
Yes.
Yo. I like it when we look out for each other. And I just like the fact that you were even looked out for, period. That's So a brother had you jumping out of airplanes.
Brother having me jump out of airplanes. I had a brother having me, with the recruiting stuff. And I did have the ally is the one that kept me in Germany. He was not a brother, but he was an ally.
That's what's up.
I'll take the allyship as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime somebody wants to be nice. Yes. Yes, please and thank you.
Yes.
It sounds like you got a little overseas experience. And I know the Army, you said you went to Germany. Y'all are big for going to Germany. I think it's Korea and Japan. Was Germany your only stop, or did you hit any other overseas places?
No, I went to Germany with my family, so we stayed there for 3 years. We really liked it.
Was it Ramstein Air Force Base?
We were in Mannheim, Germany, which was in between Kaiserslautern and Heidelberg. So we were near Landstuhl, in between there.
Okay.
So it was nice. We really were in a nice place, and it was a good assignment overall. Some challenges with some people, little small hiccups, but life for us, and we handle it and move on. Unfortunately, we have to, or you wouldn't go anywhere. You probably ball up in a corner and never come out. And then I went to Korea, but I went to Korea by myself, thinking, I went to Germany with the family. I can definitely do Korea. Korea is very different than Germany.
Really now?
Very different. So I was very stimulated when I got to Korea, and I was like, wow, this is a lot going on. I thought the flight to Germany was long until I took the flight to Korea. So I left Fort Bragg, North Carolina, so Fayetteville, North Carolina. We went from Fayetteville to Charlotte, North Carolina, from Charlotte, North Carolina to Seattle, Washington, from Seattle, Washington to Okinawa, Japan, from Okinawa, Japan to Korea, and then had to Osan, Korea. And then I had an hour and a half bus drive to Seoul when I got to Osan, to Yongsan.
This is the longest journey.
It was like 30-something hours.
Girl, this was an Oregon Trail.
Yes, I was in the worst, migraine, vertigo, all of that good stuff. And then had to go apartment hunting.
Christ. They ain't even have... Wait, they ain't got barracks in Korea?
So what happens is, if you're a certain rank and you go in a company, it's different by the city that you're in. But in Seoul and Yongsan, if you went there unaccompanied and you were E7 or above, you lived off post. Now, at first, I was disappointed, I'm not comfortable. But then after I got used to it, the living conditions were much nicer off than they were on. So I was happy after it happened, but in the beginning, I was not.
I got you.
Yeah.
So since you joined in 2001.
Yes.
Okay. You joined right before 9/11? You said March of 2001? So you joined before 9/11. Mm-hmm. How was that transition?
So I was actually maybe a week into my first assignment when 9/11 happened.
Wow.
Maybe not even a week. So I was at Fort Drum, New York, and we were in what they call the tow room. So I was a medic, and that's where we keep all of our medical equipment, so all the medicine and chests. So when we're getting prepared to go to the field or deployment, and I remember getting a call. We got a call back to go back to the company. So we left that, it's in the motor pool, but it's behind there, in the storage bins. And so we got a call to go back to the company early, and we're just looking at the TV. So as I mentioned, I'm from the D.C. area. Mm-hmm. So I live 20 miles outside of D.C. So when they used to have caller ID back in the day, the caller ID would say D.C. suburbs. So I grew up in Fairfax County, but it's right outside. So my family's here. So I started trying to call my family, and none of the calls would go through. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? And then I was in New York, so we were thinking that we would go. I didn't really understand the National Guard and the reserves and all that kind of stuff, so it really wouldn't have been us anyway. But it seemed like we might have had to go and help, but we didn't have to go. But yeah, it was a very different time, and just most of my career was spent getting prepared for deployment and training at that point, because it happened as soon as I got there.
Man, yeah. I'm always fascinated with the 9/11 story. So 2 years later, like it really got popping in like 2003. I think it was like March of 2003. That's when we really like took action.
Yeah, so I was actually a recruiter at that time. So in the beginning,
you were recruiting while we was bombing. All right.
Yeah. So I got to recruiting December 2002. I went to school and came back, and then everything was like, oh yeah, like people really wanted to join at first, right? They're like, yes, I want to join, patriotism, all that kind of stuff, and then they're like, wait a minute, this is going on a little too long.
We thought this was gonna be a quick war.
No, we're good. And people are dying, like. We'll just keep on working at Hardee's. Like, no, thank you. And I'm like, listen, everyone's not going to be infantry. Everyone's not going to deploy. I can't say if you will or not, but everyone cannot go. Like, there will be people in the United States or whatever other country, but they weren't having it. And the crazy thing is, I supported Fort Meade, so right outside of installation in Maryland.
Yeah.
And even the post commander didn't want his child to go. He was not been able to go because he was overweight.
Like, you will not be recruiting those kids in 2003 was not falling for the, hey, what about the GI Bill?
No. So yeah, you were talking about all kinds of stuff like, hey, do you like to try? And they would say, yeah, but what if I get killed? And I'm like, okay, but what if you step off the sidewalk and someone hits you with a car? Like, we can do what ifs all day long. So, but what if it does work for you?
You know what? I'm not going to laugh at the kids from that day for not falling for it, because I'm one of the kids that did fall for it. I joined in 2004. All right.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for yours. Like, you were a recruiter who, it sounds like you practice real good trickery.
No, you know what? The funny thing is, you mentioned that I had some of the delayed entry, some of the entry applicants that I put in the Army came back and actually complained. They said, why did I tell them that it was so hard? Why didn't I tell them it was so easy? I said, listen, if I oversell it to you and you get down there and it is harder for you because everyone's fitness level, everyone's mental level is different, then what happens if you go down there and it's more than what you thought? Then you have to fault me for that. So at least if you are semi-prepared and you think it's going to be tougher, then no harm, no foul. So right. No, I'm going to tell you. What I need to tell you, I'm going to tell you, because whether you join or you don't join, my check doesn't change.
Okay. And I like that.
Yeah. So I wanted you to do the best that you could. Now, if you came to me with a solid plan and you knew what you were doing, cool. But if you didn't, I'm like, listen, this is a good way for you to get started in life. Put some money to the side, and I would tell them, take some money out of each paycheck and pay yourself.
Right on.
So when you get ready to walk away, you have something. I'm like, I don't care if you start out with $100 a month or $100 a pay period. Do something, because you get used to not living with that, and you have something to walk away with when you're ready to go. Right
on. Come on, money management. Set them up for success. I love it.
Absolutely.
Oh, actually, I love this next question. Hey, Captain Tramack.
Yes.
Have you been able to make friends with other Black lady veterans? Are you purposeful about building your village?
I am definitely purposeful about building my village, and I do have some friends that are other Black female veterans.
Yeah.
I will say that I may not have gone to them with the intention on, yes, you're a vet and let's be friends. But they may have been in the same circles that I'm in, and we're all looking to grow. And so that has caused us to have a connection. So you're like, okay, this is, now we get to double up because we have service in common, and we're all out here building legacies for our families and being impactful to others.
Right on. Right on.
Yes.
Crystal.
Yes.
Tell me a war story. A story where you were tested, but you came out on top. Be the hero.
So I will say that
you got a couple of stories.
Yes. So the good thing for me is that one of the skills that recruiting taught me was really how to do a lot of research. And so I learned to be able to look up what I needed to look up in regulations and guidance. And so anytime somebody tries to tell me something, I know how to look it up to make sure that what you're telling me is accurate. And if it's not, I have no problem with calling you on it. So I used to be a person that would just say, like, whatever I was thinking, I would say. But I learned how to be more strategic in how I put that out there when I came into the military. And I'm like, oh, I can say this. And you can tell people would get what I was saying. But they're like, well, she said it, and what she said is accurate. I'm upset about it, but if I write it down, it won't sound like anything. But they got the point.
Right.
So, so yes, I will say that with the commission, with they weren't, well, before even the commission, it was time for me, when I was at E5 and E6, I told you I went to medical recruiting at the E5, and it was time for me to get promoted to E6 because I said it was time for me to get promoted to E6. So it wasn't like I was waiting a long time. I waited till I was eligible. And so I had a station commander, another white male, and he said he didn't know what I needed to do to get promoted. Now, I was the most junior person in the office. But you would think that if you are my leader, you would find out what needs to happen. Like, medical recruiting was structured a little different, so it wasn't like your normal, like, straight line to the promotion. Like, we didn't have anything set in place because most of the people that came over to recruiting were already E6s or E7s to medical recruiting. Okay. So they wouldn't have necessarily had to go to the board. You might have had a few E5s, but you definitely didn't have, E4, E5 like that. So it was different. So what ended up happening was he pretended like he didn't know, and he didn't try to find out. My husband was actually in recruiting at my old company. That's how we met in recruiting. Nice. And yes, so that structure was set up properly. And as I mentioned, my first sergeant made sure to take care of me. He actually came to the hospital when I delivered my son. Aww. And so, so the nursing staff, they're like, wow, your first sergeant came to see you and you're E4? Like, that's amazing. They were like, we don't see that very often. So I was like, as he says, I'm one of his superstars. So he came to see me at the hospital. But so they actually structured a board to make sure that I can go. So I went to the board through my old unit when I was in non-prior service recruiting, and one of the other recruiters that was we did have another E5, but he was an E5 for a lot of years before I ever came along. And so he went to the board with me, and one of the other E7s that was in our building actually took us to the promotion board. So we went to the promotion board, and he went in first or whatever. The guy went in first, and he came out, and his head was kind of down. He was looking like the E7 that walked him in, like, oh, man. And then he was like, all right, you ready? I was like, yeah. So we went and came out. When we came out, he was like, he smoked it. And he was like, all pumped up. He's like, he smoked it. And everyone was like, okay, good. You're like, all right, I'm glad. But you can just see such a difference in between the two. So when it came time for the promotion board to come out, for the results to come out, I actually got picked up for E6 in the secondary zone. So I was getting, I'm getting promoted early as far as the time, and I'm in the secondary zone, so I get promoted. So then...
Wait, what's the secondary zone?
So, like, they have the primary zone and secondary zone, so...
So you're like a backup E6 select.
Well, not backup E6 select. It's like I'm below the line, so it's actually better, like, it's actually more on the fast track side because I'm not really at the time frame of like these are people that we necessarily will promote and above because they've had this kind of time and got these kind of scores. I'm still early in, so it's like she has time to make it to when people typically get promoted. Okay. So like if I didn't submit the packet, I would have been fine. I was early, but so I was like, like maybe let's say that the cutoff was January 1st. I might have been like January 2nd.
Okay.
Right. So they're like, okay. So I got promoted, and when it was time for me to get promoted, mind you, I told you, my station commander said he didn't know what to do. So I had a captain, the black female captain that became my friend, and she's actually my sorority sister.
What sorority are you in?
AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
All right. Shouts out to the AKs.
Thank you.
For sure.
So I wasn't an AK at the time, but I told her when it was time for me to get promoted, I wanted her to be the one to do my promotion ceremony. And so she was like, okay, but she mentored me, and she was like, make sure you give him the courtesy. And I was like, I don't want to give him the courtesy because it's my promotion. And he said he didn't know what to do. So being that he didn't know what to do, I don't need to reward him by acting like he had a hand in this. So she actually did my promotion ceremony to E6. So that was a great feeling for me. And it really was special for me to have a black female officer be able to do my promotion.
I love this for you.
Yes.
That loser said he didn't know what to do. Guess the hell he did.
And I ran into him when I was in Korea. He tried to pretend like he didn't remember who I was. And at the time, I was a lieutenant. Yeah. And then he ended up being my supervisor. And then he says, oh, you're so smart. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out. I'm like, oh, that was the problem all along?
Wow.
Yeah. But I was like, well, thank you for being honest.
All right, I take it back. Maybe he is genuinely stupid. All right, fine. All right, I don't want to take stupidity points away from anybody.
What do we say? Bless their heart, their special touch, all those kind of things.
Crystal, do you feel like the way you were treated improved with rank?
Yes and no. So I will say that when I had, because that's a tricky question. So
it is.
I fought more. You're on the other side, and so you have people that don't think you should be there, and so you did have to stand up for yourself more and have to like fight through things. And so I had to reach out to the village on the other side of professionals and say, hey, look, these people are messing with me. What do I do? And they're like, look, keep your head down. You know, I got it on the backside. I'm going to work this. And you just keep doing this. You send messages and you keep them on track of whatever thing that you're doing. I understand it's tedious, but do it this way and I'll work what I need to work on the other side. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But you didn't get that all the time. And so it just took so much work and so much effort. And people would just intentionally try to set you up for failure. And you're just like, this is crazy to me. Like, I remember getting a counseling statement because I was the chief of military personnel. I covered a company, and then I was asked to cover another company. So I was at the time wearing my military personnel hat and covering two companies. And when I finished with that, I asked if I could, I said, I need to put in some leave to take off time. And they were getting ready to go through some kind of inspection or something. And basically I was told because I needed time off and they were going through an inspection, like basically saying, like scolding me like I'm selfish. And so I actually
what? You were being overworked. You were in charge of two companies.
Yeah, and I'm like, mind you, you asked me to take the company because you had troubles with the other people that were being relieved, and I stepped in and took it from you, and continued to run the military personnel section, and took another company for other people to go on leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
You help somebody else go on leave, but nobody can help you go on leave. All right.
Yes. So I will say yes and no. So, you know, the work was different as an officer than it was enlisted. I will say that I did have some great soldiers that I worked with that like had my back when I was enlisted, and you couldn't tell them nothing and they would go to bat for me. I saw it way more when I commissioned as far as subordinates and peers wanting to go to bat for me.
I love it.
And so I'm thankful for those opportunities. Like when I was the commander in North Carolina at the Warrior Transition Unit, they actually gave me this big, huge plaque that had our company flag and all this stuff. And my battalion commander said, I hope when I leave, they think half of me that much. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to happen, but you're jealous. Because they were like, hey, make sure you go put this up in your office when you go back to your old office. Because he was telling me that they're not going to support you. They are so used to the people that they had before, and they're so disappointed they're leaving. And they were like, we want her to stay. We don't want her to go. And they said, you know, he came out here and smoked us, like overworked them in PT because they wanted me to stay. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wait, PT, were you also a drill sergeant?
No, no.
Or do y'all just do PT like, oh, y'all are the Army. I'm sorry, y'all do PT all the time. Never mind.
But
I'm sorry, you said smoked and you said PT, and I'm thinking, were you back at boot camp pushing people around? No, you weren't.
No, yeah, so I didn't have to go often because I normally had, like, most of the time there's an incentive that you score a certain thing on a PT test, you can do it on your own. So my PT test was always that. And so,
of course, you're an athlete.
Yeah, so as long as that, offer that, trust me, I was going to make sure I scored enough to not have to show up and I could do it on my own.
I bet that runtime was phenomenal. Crystal Tramack had the best runtime in the whole Army while she was in.
So, I tried to sandbag, right? Because I didn't want them to know. So, when I was in basic training, I actually tried to run slow, like
what?
D group. I did. So, they had A through D group, and I didn't want to be in A group because there were no other females in A group. And I knew that, and I remember I told you I'm a sprinter. I didn't want to run distance. So, I said, B group, I can run, and I don't have to run hard. It's fine. I can keep up. It's no problem. So I was running B group, and we actually went to do, like, one of our early physical fitness tests, like, to see where you are early on in basic training. And this particular time, I probably ran, like, 16-something before in a 2-mile run. Okay. So the commander spent the clock. And I typically know the time, like the range that I'm running, and I can keep up with it or whatever. And I ended up getting kind of with the pack of some of the guys, and I wasn't paying attention. And when the run finished, it was 14:10, and I was like, darn it. And then he just kind of looked at me. He's like, why aren't you in A group? And I was like,
my ankles hurt.
Like, yeah, it was like, yeah. Starting Monday, you're in A group. So I was like, man. And I would try to fall out to B group, like slide out to the back. And they would sing cadence to me as the only female on the street with a whole bunch of guys running, so it really wasn't working. I was like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And my drill sergeant was an Iron Man from South Africa, so
Lord.
And he was like 6'6".
Lord.
so we would run all these crazy distance runs and then go take a lap or two around the track and then have to meet up and keep running. Now, we would get showered before everybody else and would be ready for breakfast ready before everybody else, but it did not feel good. I'm like, I am a sprinter. I don't like running this. I'm just better than most of these people because I do run. Yes.
You were deliberately running slow. How dare you?
Yeah,
and that's why you got busted, Crystal.
I did. I got busted. I did.
We know you faking it.
Right. I'm like, man, how do you know? This is talking me. I was like, man, they caught me.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, I want to circle back to this, how y'all get promotions, and what I'm a little bit fascinated now. So does every rank get a board? Like if you're E4 going to E5, you get a board? Or is there a test as well, or is it all boards?
So no test. They definitely changed some things. So I can't tell you exactly what's happening right now, but there were no tests. And so E4 to E5 gets a board, E5 to E6 gets a board, and then E7 is congressional select. So DA select, Department of Army select.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So the thing is, if you get in trouble and you're a 5 or a 6, they can take the rank from you easy. If you get in trouble and you're E7 or E8, E9, it takes more for them to take the rank from you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's more that they have to go through before they can just say you're going to be busted down to the next rank.
Okay, so that's how y'all retire dirtbags. It's too hard to get them knocked down.
If you make E7 or above, then it does take a little more for them to for you to get in trouble, like for you to get reduced in rank. But if you're an E6 or below, no, that's easy.
Okay, and that's also how you can spend like your whole career as an E4 or an E5. Because it's too easy to take the rank from you.
Yeah. Like, right. So if you made it and went back and all that kind of stuff, because you really have like what they call a retention control point. And so if you get to like 10 years at a certain rank or 8 years at a certain rank, you're gone.
Oh, we call that higher tenure in the Coast Guard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you've got 10 years. Yeah, 10 years to go from and you better make E5. And like after that, like you got 15 years and you better make E6. Mm-hmm. And after that, 18 years to make like, and I'm probably messing this up, to like make E7. And if you haven't made E7 in the 18, they don't care. They're going to let you retire, but only at like the 20.
Yeah, because typically if you get to 18, you're going to stay till 20. So most services, that's that. Yeah, you get to stay at that point. But they won't consider you for any more promotions after that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's fascinating. No test for E4s and E5. All right.
No test.
That's scary. That means your promotions are really based on the opinions of other people, solely.
So it's a combination of things. So like you go to a promotion board, but that's only part of your points. Your other points they come from your education. So if you have civilian education, you get points for a certain amount of points for that, depending on how much civilian education you have. So like for me, I had a bachelor's degree already, so I maxed out civilian education when I first came in, and then. Yeah, and then you get so many points for like your awards, the awards that you're given, certain types of awards. So of course, like your ribbons, not like paper awards, but you do like certificate achievement. They used to give like 5 points or something like that. Okay. But you can only get like a max of 20 from your certificate achievement, and then you get points from like if you go to Army schools, you get points from that as well. So military schools or military training, you also get points from that.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's not all that. So some people are heavier on the education side and the award side, and some people are heavier on the board. It just depends.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, it's a combination of things. All right,
yes.
I get it. That's what's up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Crystal, has there ever been a tough situation you were in where another sister helped you out, or a situation where you were able to help out another sister?
So when I went to Korea, when I commissioned, one of the females that I commissioned with, my really good friend, my really good battle buddy, we actually ended up going to Korea together. So we both got orders to go to Korea. And so when I flew to Seattle which was my third flight or my second flight. I met her in Seattle, and then we flew to Japan, and then we flew to Osan. So we were in Yonsan together for that year. And so it was really good for me to have her there because she really forced me to do stuff. So she was like, you have to get your license. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll just walk. And she's like, no, it is entirely too cold over here for you to walk. And I have a car that I bought. So I'm going to pick you up, but you're also going to drive. She's like, I have to go home to Texas, for the holidays. And I don't want you here walking. I'm going to leave my car with you. So you have to drive. So she forced me to get my license there. In our sorority, we call our spouses that do work for you, like to support the sorority, we call them honeydews. So we're like, oh, we need you to do whatever. So she was my honeydew in Korea. So whenever I had mentees or anything else for the sorority, I'm like, I have to go pick up stuff. She's like, okay, let's go. So she would go with me to pick up the stuff that I needed for my sorority so that I can turn that stuff in. And we both sung in a choir at church.
And you're a singer? Okay.
Yeah.
You are a lot, Crystal. You are a lot. You are a runner. You're a track star. You're an officer. You're an officer that was once enlisted. You're an AKA. Yes. You jump out of airplanes for fun.
Yes.
And also you're a singer. All right. Anything else you can flex on?
I did choir and all that stuff when I was growing up. I never was a soloist. I'm too shy to do that. And so that's one thing that I did like about track. It's an individual sport, but it's also a team sport. So that's why I went to track and left basketball. Anything else? Yeah, I'm an author. I got more things up my sleeve.
I love it. Be all the things. I love it, Crystal. I am here for all of it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm sorry, and I interrupted your sister's story. My bad.
Right. So yeah, no, she was just like really, really helpful for me. And so even if somebody was messing with you, she's like, you know what? Let's get out of here because they're gonna make me say or do something, and I don't want them bothering you. She's like, I don't like the way they're dealing with you. Let's go. But she was really there for me, and so I appreciate her. Just I thank God that she was there. We went together. That was so helpful for me because even when I was walking around, I told you I had the vertigo and the migraine. She was like, listen, you were out of it with the medicine from the hospital. She said, but you could tell what was nice and what wasn't. You were like, I can't stay here. So she was like laughing at me I'm like, please don't take me to any more villas. I cannot stay in a villa over here. That's not going to work. I need a modern place. So, but we really supported one another over there. So if it was something that she needed from me that I could help with her, that's what I did, and vice versa. So I'm thankful. I think that I know that that's how we got through that year so smoothly. And my supervisor would say, I would invite you over, but I already know you either have something with your sorority or something with church. I'm like, you're right, and thank you.
They knew you very well.
Yes. And we're still friends. We still keep in touch to this day. So, yeah.
I love this for you.
Thank you.
This lady, she made you do better. She made you get a driver's license.
She did, because I was not going to get a license. And she was like, and when I tell you, I was not interested, I probably passed it by, one question. I had no desire to get a license over there, because I don't like the way they drive. It's too tight. I couldn't think, you can look straight ahead and be like, oh, this is the building I need to go to. But if you start driving straight ahead, you're not going to get there. It's not like the United States. So I was like, I'm going to be lost. I don't like it. I'll just walk.
Let me ask you, over there, do they drive on the other side of the road?
I don't think
is this one, were you in one of those cars with the driver, with the steering wheel on the other side of the car?
No. They're regular side. As far as I remember, they're regular side.
Oh, so this was just a regular test? Crystal, I'm so glad she pushed you.
It's just very crowded, and remembering the signs. I thought Germany was easier. I had my license in Germany. That was fine. There was more open space. It's very, very crowded in Korea. To the point when I brought my son over the last week that I was there, and people were zipping by him on scooters on the sidewalk, and he almost lost his mind. I'm like, it's okay. I know it's you're overly sensitized over here. You're overly stimulated. It just is what it is. Just try to remain calm and let's go. Because they would tell you when you're in process, their warning to you would say, let them step off the sidewalk before you do. So if they get hit by a bus, they're hit, not you.
Wow.
And you're like, right. Wow. Thank you for this introduction. Yeah.
All right. So places not to go, Korea. I wasn't going to go anyways, but thank you.
But you get nice clothes made. I did get some nice suits made. So people will compliment me to this day on the things that I'm like, oh, yes, I got this tailor-made in Korea.
Nice.
Yeah.
Captain Tramack, could you tell me something
Yes.
you wish you had known before joining the service?
So I don't know if you could tell already, but when I joined the Army, I was like Private Benjamin. So when I left for basic training, I thought that I was smart. So when I left, I took my clothes in a rolling bag. And I remember getting to basic training and them yelling at me. And they're like, you brought it, you carried it. And I'm like, what are they talking about? There's nobody else rolling this but me. I'm just, I'm thinking to myself, I'm just smart. So I'm just rolling my bag along. And they're screaming at me. But it wasn't until later on that I figured out that they expected me to pick it up and just carry it, although it had wheels, just because I just needed to carry it. I'm like, that makes no sense.
Right.
And when we got to reception, they take you to the store and tell you, you can buy some things or whatever. But I didn't realize that wouldn't be my only chance to buy stuff. So silly of me, I purchased like a lot of products in reception, and then you had to carry them from the bus to like where you're staying. Yeah. So while they're yelling at me, one of the bags was a laundry bag, and I had like the detergent in it, and I was tired of carrying it. So I started to drag the bag across the ground, the concrete. And when we got to the area, they had freshly sprayed off the common area.
Oh my God.
And I put my bag down. We got in line. They were yelling or whatever. And I remember them yelling at me, and I really couldn't figure it out. And then I remember, like, later on, like, as a flashback, I could see them giggling, like, okay, she's clueless. Let's just go on to the next person. So when they were telling us to go back to our bags, my bag was very easy to find because, as I told you, I purchased laundry detergent, and I drug the bag on the ground. Mm-hmm. So my bag was the one with all the bubbles around it.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
No.
Yes, so the detergent had a hole in it because I drug it across the ground, and I had bubbles all over my stuff, so there was detergent all over my stuff, and they're yelling and screaming or whatever. So when I dump my stuff out, I'm still calmly I put my towel on the ground, I'm just wiping my stuff off or whatever, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like she is just, so I just wipe my stuff off or whatever. But also, I do know how to braid too. So I braided my hair in micro braids before I left to go to basic training.
Right on. Because
I thought that, well, my hair will be neat. I won't have to worry about it, and that'll get me through training. No big deal.
Yeah.
Well, we got in trouble one day, and I was in charge. I was a squad leader, a platoon sergeant, or something else like that. And they said for us to crawl in the mud.
Man.
Yeah, and I think I probably had my micro braids in at the time, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, and I had sat down, and I had done the smallest, nicest, neatest braids I had ever done in my life, because I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I have pictures like, yeah.
Wait, you did your own micro braids?
Yes.
Girl!
Mm-hmm.
Crystal.
Yeah.
Hold on. Might I add that it's really cool, but also weird that you're an only child, and you know how to braid so well. Like, because as an only child, you didn't have anybody to practice on.
No.
Unless you just grew up around cousins.
Nope, I watched my friend. So my aunts can braid. My mother cannot. My aunts can braid. Well, two of them can braid. Mm-hmm. And so I had a friend on my team, my track team from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And I watched her braid somebody else's hair. And I was like, oh, I just looked and I'm like, let me try that. And then I started to try to do it on my doll's hair. And then I just started on myself and doing it on my mom. And then I started getting clients.
Yo, Crystal.
Yes.
There is nothing that you can't do. I'm pretty sure you've already said that to yourself every day for your whole life, but there really is nothing that you can't do.
I will now, because I never really, how you just do things, you don't think about it like that, so thank you for putting it like that, because I'm like, yeah, I need to tell myself that. As a matter of fact, I need to write that on the mirror for me to see on a regular basis, so I can just try it and do it.
Look, do you really need to see it and read it? You've been living like that your whole life. There's nothing you can't do. Nice.
It'll stick with me now that you said it like that. I never really thought about it. I just do the thing. I never really thought about it.
Crystal, you did your own micro braids. Even if I possessed the talent, I don't have the patience for myself.
Yeah. So I had to take them out. And then
what?
I had a drill sergeant that was like, whoa, what? She was like, after I take it out, then she's like, yep, you're not supposed to be able to get a relaxer until a certain point. And this is before I stopped relaxing my hair. And so she was like, I'm going to take you guys to the PX so you can get some of that white stuff. I was like, okay, thank you. So then I was able to relax my hair. But I just knew that I was going to be good to go. Like, oh, I could just have my hair braided the whole time. So I just wish I knew a little more about how to be prepared going into that environment. The good thing is it was temporary. So just knowing that, okay, talk to somebody else that's been before and strip your mind down to the bare minimal, and that would give you a little more idea. And maybe that's why I shared some of that when I will recruit individuals to come in, and then they would tell me, why did you tell me that was so easy? It was easy for you. Especially most of the time it was males coming back telling me how easy it was.
Of course.
Yeah. But oh no, now there were some of them that could not do like the pre-fitness test that were struggling to do a push-up before they left. Coming out of high school.
Well, maybe they were in the band. You know what? I'm gonna stop because it may be some former band members listening. I didn't mean to make y'all catch a stray like that.
No, I was in the band. I was in strings. I did all that stuff when I was growing up.
Crystal, there really is nothing that you can't do. The band, what instrument did you play? Clarinet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before that, the violin.
So that's a wind instrument and a string instrument.
Yes.
I'm sick of you, Crystal. All right. I'm so done with you.
I guess I feel like that's being an only child. My parents were like, oh, you want to do that? Do this. My mom's like, oh, let's take you to dance class. Okay, tap, jazz, and ballet.
She's going to do everything.
Yeah.
Love it. I love
military? I'm not getting up to tell her bye for that.
Oh, man. How long were you natural before you had to before you decided to perm your hair in a boot camp?
So I wasn't even natural then, because I wasn't even thinking about that then. So
okay.
It probably was a regular, maybe a few weeks off from a regular relaxer, because
okay.
You don't have your hair products to do the things your hair bows and all that kind of stuff, and your blow dryers, you don't have any of that stuff. So it's like, heck, I didn't have any hair oil or anything. So it was like, you just out here winging it. That was, and who knows what kind of shampoo, because it's not like you get to stay a long time in the shower either. So
right.
Yeah, but no, I didn't go natural until I came back from Germany, and then I just decided, I'm not going to relax my hair anymore.
All right.
And that was 2009. Mm-hmm. Right
on. You have a very interesting journey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you tell me about a time you learned a lesson that you weren't ready to learn?
I will say, being in the military, so I'm from Fairfax County, Virginia, and I remember people would say, like, if they lived in Maryland or D.C., they would say, I'm not coming to visit you, because they would say that, like, our police officers were racist. So they're like, they're going to mess with us if we come from D.C. or Maryland. I'm like, that's crazy.
That is crazy, because police are racist everywhere. Wait, is there a section of the United States where the police are just not racist at all?
So that's the thing. I didn't learn that. So I never heard these stories, like when people were like, oh, my parents had to talk with me. Those weren't the kind of talks that we had. I didn't have any of those conversations. I just didn't know any of that stuff. My mother was like, I need you to sit down and watch Invitation to Life because you're Black. And I was like, what is she talking about? I had no idea what she was talking about until I was in my 30s, and I told my son, let's sit down and watch The Butler. And he was like, another slave movie. And I was like,
wow.
I failed. Like, let me talk to you. I'm like, now I understand what my mom was talking about. So I really did not, I had a whole different perspective about life and about things that were going on. So my first surrounding around being around our people all at one time was being in a historically Black college, and I had a culture shock.
Wait, you went to an HBCU?
Yeah, I went to HBCU, and I didn't even know what that was.
Wait, which HBCU did you go to?
St. Augustine's in Raleigh, North Carolina.
St. Augustine, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right
or they say St. Augustine's, whichever one, or St. Aug. Yeah. So it's a Division II powerhouse, especially for track and field. A lot of Olympic athletes came out of there. My coach coached the World Championship sprint teams. He coached the Olympics and all that great stuff.
Nice.
So it was, but I got a full scholarship to go there. I didn't know what historically Black college was. And when I was there, people were like having these conversations. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. And so I didn't learn what HBCU was until I was in one. And I was like, oh, I used to see Cosby on TV with like, the Black at Different World and that.
Yeah.
And on his show with his T-shirt, and I'm like, okay.
With his sweaters,
yeah. Yeah, but I'm like, I'm across the bridge from Howard, and I really didn't know anything about that. My mother's like, you're not going to school in the city. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I just did not know like how people perceive me just because I'm a Black person. Like, I knew there were some challenges. Yes, I did. It just was a lot different once I joined the military and got outside of this environment. So it was like to the point where I live here in Fairfax County, Virginia, and I'm having conversation with people, and they would say, "Oh, where are you from?" And I would say, "Here," and they would say, "Oh, DC or Maryland." and I was like, "What?" I said, "Here, Virginia." Like, I went to school around the corner, and they're like, "Oh, were your parents military?"
Wow.
No, because it's not a military town. Yeah, like, it's not a military town. Like, this place would survive whether the military was here or not. I'm like, my father was in the Army way before I was ever thought of. No, we lived here and worked in the community. They had businesses. Like, yeah, there are Black people here that are doing well. You know, whether middle class, and heck, there are some Black people here that aren't doing well, but they still live in this county. So, yeah, so it was very, very interesting to me. But, and just the constant, you know, you're so well spoken and all that kind of stuff. So just not, you know, that awareness.
Don't you hate it when white people say that though? You're so well spoken. It's racist. It really is racist.
It is. It's a backhanded compliment. Yeah. And they don't understand it and they don't know it. But, you know, I'm grateful for all of the experience that I've had. You know, just listening to it really opened my eyes. Even when George Floyd happened, and people were telling me like, yeah, I used to put my college ID on top of my driver's license to show that I'm worth something. I'm like, wow, I never knew this stuff or heard any of this stuff. I would put my military ID on top, and I was like, wow, this is pretty sad. Like, that was never my experience. So, yeah, just some of the exposure, but I'm way more aware now. And that's even what's more frustrating to me when people try to say, if I'm calling out something and they try to say, oh, yeah, when would it not be a racist issue? Well, no, it is, because I've lived a whole lot of my life where I wouldn't have called it out when that's what it was. Because I may not have recognized it.
Right. Wow. Once again, we're circling back to a subject only I am going to find interesting. Sorry, listeners, y'all got to hear this one too. So when you watched Imitation of Life, which version was it?
It was the original. But
the black and white version?
Yeah, but I still didn't get it until I was in my 30s when I said that to my son. I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like, why is she? Okay, I watched this. Okay.
Honestly, both versions of Imitation of Life are very good. They're teaching the same lesson, but like it's a totally different story in the second one. Don't know.
I have to check it out.
I was about to say, don't know if you've seen the second one. It's in color. It's in color, and it's really good too. It kind of doesn't focus on the black lady doing so much work though.
Okay.
In the second Imitation of Life, the focus is on the mother being a starlet, and the black lady is just her housekeeper, and they can actually afford to keep her in this instance. Whereas in the first movie, the focus is on the black lady inventing pancakes, basically.
Okay.
Right. So at least in the second story, they didn't take anything from the black lady and basically discredit her. They didn't appropriate pancakes from her.
I will have to check it out. So thank you for sharing that. But yeah, no, the lesson was delayed. I did not get it until almost 30 plus years later. I probably was 3 or 4 or 5 when I learned it. I mean, when I saw it. So I didn't get it till over 30 years later.
There's a couple of lessons in that. You don't just have to learn race stuff. It's, you know what? Let me stop. Because I actually just like both of those movies a little bit, so I can tangent on that all for far too long.
Then we'll talk about it on the side. So
right.
But the listeners, they can check it out.
Right. Crystal, do you feel that you are a better leader than the ones you grew up under?
I do, because I care about people.
Hell yeah.
And
that's what I'm talking about.
When I treat people like people. One, I know that everyone has their own challenges. Everyone has their own unique background. And I want to see people be the best version of themselves. I want them to be successful. And so whatever I can do to guide you along that path, motivate you, encourage you, that's what I want to do. So it was to the point where the service members that I work with and supported, they would know. So, like, if they brought any piece of paper by me and it was supposed to have my signature on it or needs to be reviewed by me, I would red ink it. It was to the point where they were looking forward to it. So they would bring their personal stuff, like, ma'am, could you please, I want a commission, or I want to become a warrant officer. I want to go to school. So would you please go through this for me? And they would ask me even about homework assignments and things like that. And so they were looking forward to me doing that. So I definitely want to see people do well. So I'm going to share. I want you to be it's participatory. So if there's something that we have time and we can talk about it, and you have things that may be beneficial to the whole mission, the whole us, our group, our organization, I want to hear from you. No, I may not always be able to implement them all. I might be able to tweak some of it, but I want you to have a discussion. I want you to feel heard and feel seen. So I don't just dismiss you because I'm in charge. Like, I'm the leader, I'm the commander, and this is my way or no way. I didn't lead like that. My position is not who I am. So I know that whether I'm in uniform or out of uniform, whether I'm the leader, whether I'm a peer, whether I'm a follower, I'm still a genuine person that wants to see people do well. So I don't have to wear that to say, oh, these people work for me. If you have to do that, then they don't anyway, but they don't really, because you have to tell somebody that. People will know, because when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, those people will go to bat for you every single day and twice on Sunday and bend over backwards for you and do things you would never think that they would do or ask them to do, because they care about you and they want to see you win.
I know that's right. Ooh, you are the perfect leader. I love it. I love it. And thank you for being a better leader. Thank you for being a good person that makes a good leader. Yeah, heck yeah. Oh, man. Crystal, are there any sisters in service that inspire you? Past or present, doesn't matter which branch.
So there are a lot of sisters in service, I would say, that inspire me. One, I would say that I just love to see when women show up pulled together, and they are wanting to see other people do well. So I don't necessarily remember, like, off the top of my name, off the top of my head, all the different names, because it's been so many years and I haven't really interacted with them. But and some people I may not even have known their name, but just to see them show up in the space, and, when they're getting promoted, I love to see it. When they are getting selected for different schools and opportunities like that, when they're getting up and sharing their story, when they're getting up and sharing the military story, I take a sense of pride in that, because they open the door for somebody else, and whether sometimes that somebody else was me, whether I knew it or not. And so I just love to see when women show up as their authentic selves, even though sometimes we have to curb it a little bit, unfortunately, because that's just the society that we're in. But you still get to know this person is real and they care about you and they want to be there. And so I love that. The closest people to me, I had like I said, my battle buddy, I think she's she's on top of it. Like, she's out here doing things as a civilian. She's retired, but even the positions that she held and the work that she did, she's really on top of it. And the funny thing is, she'll say similar about me when it comes to, like, she's like, yeah, I can't believe they picked you, but I just see the type of work and the strength in her. And so, she has kids that are doing excellent things, dental school, all kind of other stuff. So I'm just amazed to see that. When I was here at the hospital, I worked with a major that was really on top of things, and a quiet storm, but she knew her stuff. And so they couldn't mess with her. And I just love to see that. So I will tell you that she had a backbone, and she would stand up and go to bat for me. She would, make sure that she provided top cover. You don't always get that top cover. So it was good to have somebody to do that, step in for you to do that. So, when I worked with the Lieutenant Colonel in Korea, and just to hear her stories, wow. To hear the stuff that she went through, she stayed in through a time when, they used to separate you just for being pregnant, whether you were married or not. And so for her to make it through that time, and, like, I'm like, man, she had been in almost 40 years. I was like, this is crazy. Like, just talking to her. And we went to a field exercise.
Wait, a black Army lady that was in the service for 40 years?
Yeah, she was in for like 35, 36 years or something like that. Yeah.
Is she on Facebook?
Yeah. I don't know if she
Wait, is she alive? I'm sorry.
No, she is, but I don't know if I feel like I saw her on social media before, but, I don't think she's that active, but she actually lives in Maryland. But I mean, it was amazing to talk to her, like, just to listen to, like, the stories and the stuff that she went through. I was like, wow, I don't know, like, and you're still around here. And the crazy thing is, people would still mess with her, and I could see them mess with her. I'm like, she's a lieutenant colonel, just like y'all, or you guys are 06s, but you're still trying to give her a hard time. I'm like, this lady is a compassionate lady. She's a very compassionate leader who cares about people and will step up for them. And she had a procedure done. They weren't trying to help her. It was us that was helping her. But I just really appreciated having the opportunity to meet her and crossing paths with her. Yeah.
Wow. Yo, you also met some phenomenal sisters. Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, it just never ends for black women. Like you said, they were still messing with her as a lieutenant colonel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds about sounds about right. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, I hope she's living her best life right now.
I think she is. I know that she had built a home, and she's from Jamaica, but I believe her husband's from Africa, somewhere on the continent of Africa, and they had already started building a home in Africa, and so no, that wasn't going to be their primary home, but that when they would go there and visit, they had somewhere to go to, so I'm sure that she is.
I love it. Love it. Good for them. Wow. All right, Captain Tramack. Let's say you were just starting your life out on your own and you were presented with the chance to join the service for the first time. Mm-hmm. Knowing what you know now, would you still join?
I would, because I believe that you're going to have challenges, even if it's in the service or out of the service. But out of the things that the service helped me do to accelerate some things in my life, I would definitely. So one, I have a home, or I have a couple of homes. I've actually owned 3 homes at one time. I've bought and paid off 4 brand new cars over a certain period of time. My son is in school as a sophomore in college, and we're not having to pay for him to go to school.
Nice.
Yes, my husband and I both have retirement checks coming in. We both have Virginia VA disability checks coming in.
Nice.
We're tax exempt on our home. The leadership that I did learn to add on to what I did with athletics, that totally just accelerated things and put it on top for me. The additional schooling education that I was able to pursue. So I've gotten a master's degree that I have to pay for. I've I'm in the middle of completing a doctorate program. Mm-hmm. I'm not paying for, and I'm actually getting paid to pursue.
Oh, you better get it.
So yes, I will say that I would, because it really does make a difference. So yeah, I'm working another business. I'm working my business, but I also have 2 other checks coming in for the rest of my life. So yeah, I would definitely take advantage of it. I would have had a better plan to where I wasn't just like, hey, let me just do this. But I definitely would have joined, and I know that it would have been even better with the plan.
Crystal, even without a plan, you are that girl. Yo.
Thank you. And I should say with a more solid plan, because I had a loose plan. Like, I didn't want to pay for any more school, and let them, I don't want to pay for school anymore, like I didn't before. But yeah, that was my loose plan. Let them pay for school.
I know that's right, and they are. And not only are they paying for school, did you say they were paying you to get a doctorate?
Yes.
I love everything about that statement. Yes. Yes. Love it. If you had a daughter or any impressionable Black girl in your life that you cared about, and she was considering a life in the military, would you try talking her out of it?
I don't believe in talking anyone out of it, because I do understand that there are so many benefits that set you apart from the rest of the population. So if you really pay attention to what you're doing and you take advantage of it, you can have a leg up. Things have changed, and so it's the contribution retirement. It's not the regular retirement. It's a blended retirement now. Mm-hmm. So it's different than it was before. So I definitely would say, let's talk this plan through. Have your plan and stick to your plan. And make sure that when you walk out with more than you had when you went in. So I'm an only child. However, my cousins and I, we call ourselves sisters and brothers because we grew up together. Mm-hmm. So their children are my nieces and nephews. And so I actually had one of my cousins call me. One of my nieces will be graduating this year. And so she's in ROTC. She's in JRTC. And she actually is looking to go into the military. So I will be going with her to the recruiting station. Nice. For us to talk this through to make sure that everything is dressed right dress.
And you're the perfect person to go with her as a former recruiter. Man, this is so perfect. I love it.
Yes. So my cousin called and was like, hey, this is what's happening. I'll make sure that when the day is set for her appointment, that it's a day for you to be available. And I was like, all right, keep me posted.
I know that's right.
Yes.
Former recruiter Tramack.
Yes.
Recruitment and retention is down across all the branches, and with all the demographics, Black women are not excluded from that. This was true even before the pandemic. Why do you think Black women are so disinterested in joining the military?
I think that we already work on assimilating to society so much. Mm-hmm. And so to have to even further assimilate by going into the service, that's more of a challenge, especially when Black women are starting to come out more than they were before, and they're like, okay, so what? You don't like my hair, you don't like my nails, and it looks different than what you have going on. Not to say we weren't doing that before, but I feel like they're louder about it now than during the time when I was growing up. So I believe that is a challenge. And then now with all the social media going on and watching all these people popping up on social media and they're claiming to make millions, some of them are, but not all of them are, then they're like, oh, it's easy money out here and I don't have to go into the military to do it. And when you don't have that military exposure to where you've been talking to someone, you feel like the whole military service is basic training. And I'm like, that is not real life. You will have time outside of that. You go through your training for your time frame and then you move on and you essentially go to work and go home. Yeah, there's some other pieces in there, but for the most part, you are working a job and you go home.
Mm-hmm. All right, Crystal, if you were conducting this interview from where I'm sitting, what question would you have asked you that I did not ask you?
So, life after the military. So, what is it that you're doing? What, are you, what's your business about? What impact are you making out here? What do you have that you've completed? Those kind of questions. So that's what I would ask.
No, thank you so much. And hey, now that we're on the subject, hey Crystal, what are you doing now that you've left the military? You've been out since 2016.
Yes.
It sounds like you've been incredibly busy, getting all the degrees that every college has to offer, and making the military pay for it. It sounds like you've been a good sorority sister to your sorors. It sounds like it sounds like you've been helping the youth along their way.
Yes.
So what else have you been up to?
So I have also been coaching clients to accessing the federal government. So those that are interested in getting into the government and they are dealing with the red tape, they don't feel like they're getting calls back or getting their applications to move on to the hiring manager for interviewing requests, for job offers, and those that want to get promotions. So I've been coaching clients through that, as well as encouraging others to pursue their tax-free benefits through veteran services and not allowing other people to deter them, saying that they don't qualify because they didn't deploy or their service didn't look like somebody else's believes it look. Everyone's service is different. Everyone's medical history, everyone's physical history is different, and so you never know what's going on. There are a lot of things that are happening with us or have happened to us that would not happen to someone in the typical population, in the general population, and the Veterans Affairs will compensate for that. So don't leave that money on the table and wait until you need it. I'm struggling financially and now I want to go after it. Well, you already know that process takes a while, and that's typically when it's harder for you to get because you need it. So it's not about you needing it, it's something that's available to you. So it can really make a difference in your life and your family's life. And so I've been guiding individuals through that process and showing up in the spaces, moving through the federal ranks myself, because I know that that's important to have other people that look like me as well, and opening those doors, and someone can reach out and touch me and say, oh, I've seen someone really do it in real life. It's not something I heard, but I can actually see it. So those are the things that I've been doing as a speaker and coach, and I have published 2 books.
Come on.
My first book went out in May. I have my second book coming out, where it is on pre-order, my 6-figure federal career.
Come on.
To landing, yes, the blueprint to landing a federal position, and I was co-author on a Amazon bestseller.
Crystal, you kept that one to yourself on purpose, didn't you? Did you try to shock me in this interview? Y'all, I spoke to Crystal before we started recording. We've actually had another conversation about her time in service. She was like, nah, I ain't gonna tell her that right now. I'm gonna wait until we record this interview, and then I'm gonna bomb drop her at the end. Yo, come on. You have been all that you can be. You have wasted no time in or out of the military, Crystal. Jesus. I love it.
So much. Listen, you built it up so well. You gave me the perfect entrance for me to come in there. And I'm like, listen, that book is on pre-order now. So for those of you that are ready to get into the federal government, know somebody that want to get in, you find me. Get your book.
Everybody, go ahead and inbox Crystal. when you figure out where she is on social media, go ahead and just tap on her inbox real quick. Now, and actually,
tap away.
And actually, we're gonna put links to your books in the description of this bio. So your books will be hopefully very easy to find for the listeners.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna link that, and we're gonna have a couple of other links in the bio of this description. Yeah, in the description of this bio.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Crystal. So if y'all want to know how to sing, braid hair, or run track, if y'all want to know how to get involved in the federal government, if you want to know what the imitation of life is about, you can call Crystal for literally anything.
Yeah,
there is nothing she can't do.
Next level.
All right, Crystal. Is there anything you would like to leave our audience with?
Well, you brought out all the secrets, so I just want to say you brought out all my secrets.
Were they secrets though? Were they?
I can tell you that most people, even if they listen to this and they've known me, they may not have heard a lot of these things that I have shared with you today. So it will be new to them. So yeah, you got some inside access on this.
Come on. Well, thank you. I feel very special. Thank you.
Yes. So I would say you can find me at Crystal She Speaks across all social media platforms. That's IG, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, or IG is Instagram. Sorry, that's TikTok, that's YouTube. And I do have a free gift for anyone that reaches out to me, and I will provide the link there, or you can actually find it in my bio on those pages. But yeah, I have a lot of information to share, and you let me share a whole lot of information. It's been wonderful talking to you, and I appreciate the setup of just you put me on the top rope. You're like, come off the top rope.
Chris, hold on. Let's make sure everybody knows where to find it. Crystal She Speaks on Instagram. Crystal She Speaks on Twitter, and is that Crystal She Speaks on Facebook as well?
Yes.
All right.
And
YouTube. All right. So I will be following you on all platforms, and so if anybody wants to know how to get to Crystal, you can look her up the old-fashioned way, the regular way, and you can also look at who I'm following, and I will be following Crystal She Speaks on all platforms as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Crystal, you have given our audience a lot to think about, and a very good story as well. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk to me. Thank you for sharing your story. This was an important story, a very interesting story, an educating and enlightening story. And just thank you for sharing that with us today. And for our audience, thank you for tuning in. Bye now. And that concludes this episode of the Seasoned Vet Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. And a special thank you to Captain Tramack for sharing her story and taking the time to make this interview possible. Now, if you are or know a Black Lady veteran who would like to sit down with me and be a part of the show, please email me at seasonedvetpodcast@gmail.com, or you can call or text message me at 713-254-0970. You can also find, follow, and inbox me, the Seasoned Vet, across all platforms of social media. At Real Seasoned Vet on Twitter, at Seasoned Vet Podcast on Instagram, at Seasoned Vet Podcast on TikTok, at Seasoned Vet on YouTube, Seasoned Vet on Facebook. Y'all, I'm so out there, I'm even on Spoutable. That's at the Seasoned Vet on Spoutable. Now, if you like what you heard, please like it, share it, rate it, and leave a good review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And if you're hearing this episode on the day that it drops, then you're listening to it on March 25th, 2024. Today is the 75th birthday of Lillian Elaine Fishburne. In 1998, Lillian Fishburne became the first Black woman in the Navy to be promoted to the rank of Rear Admiral. She retired in 2001 after 28 years of honorable and groundbreaking service. Happy birthday, Admiral Fishburne. Thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, fall out.